Well, that would be good. Now, then the fourth point is a grand strategy. I personally think that Trump, who was probably busy avoiding being assassinated, Trump picked his people, many of them brilliant choices, some of them not so brilliant
Right.
choices. I have a real hard time understanding the worldwide wrestling lady being in charge of small business.
That was
Uh,
that wouldn't caught me cold. Yeah, I agree.
but I do favor Rex Tillerson very, very much. I
He
mean, this is a
supposedly
man.
cut off his relations with big oil to do a better job in the position
Look,
he's been appointed.
who better to have as Secretary of State than someone who intimidates presidents already?
Agreed.
Uh,
Yeah.
the guy is a giant, and General Mattis is a giant,
Hmm.
and General Kelly knows how to build a wall. So I'm smiling now because I'm thinking that the mix of business and military people that Trump has picked is quite promising.
Well, you've
What he
waited
does
25
not
years, so go ahead and smile, Robert. Enjoy. I agree.
I've been waiting 25 years for this moment. You're absolutely right. And I do feel like there's a convergence. So the fourth point is a grand strategy. Trump needs to have a grand strategy summit. There hasn't been a grand strategy since Ike Eisenhower ran Project Solarium in 1953.
Hmm.
Now, I've been blessed. I just finished up a 3 monograph strategy series for the U.S. Army Strategic Study Institute. And the first volume, the first monograph, I don't want to oversell it, is an American grand strategy that starts with bringing the Army home, closing all of our overseas bases, closing down the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, ending all of our military subsidies to the Saudi dictators
Absolutely,
and others.
100% concur and agree with you. And I've been saying the same thing. What the hell do we have people in South Korea for? Who's paying the bill?
Hey,
What are they
one of
doing
the
in
points
Germany, etc.?
one of the points that I make is as long as our army is in Germany and South Korea and elsewhere, it's their army, not ours.
Thank
Bring
you.
it home.
Thank you. Very good.
Well, your listeners can find this grand strategy both free online and also as a Kindle short.
Okay.
And if they go to phibetaiota.net, they'll
Click on
see.
Robert Steele's name and guests, and you'll go right there. phibetaiota.com.
Yes. And so I would be very glad if they went and read that grand strategy. It's only the national security side, but it stops the drone assassinations by CIA, which have a 98% miss rate.
Yep.
They kill 98 innocents for every 2 military age males that they destroy.
Mm-hmm.
It basically stops a lot of evil. It also, I'm fascinated. I want to really pay Trump a compliment. I've never seen anybody in my lifetime. I'm 64 years old. I've never seen any president come in and before even being inaugurated, beat the crap out of Boeing and Lockheed. Nothing gives me greater pleasure than to have those guys set back.
It's astonishing what we're seeing. I've covered the same thing. This is wonderful to hear someone of your stature bring these issues to the fore. It's just great.
Well, I don't know about stature because I've been marginalized, but I do have a lot of thinking that I've been doing for 25 years, and I do want to put it in Trump's service and in the service of the country. Now, I want to say something nice about Iran, which may strike some of your listeners as odd, but
no, not
I
at
went to
all.
school
Not
with
at
some
all. No, go
Listen,
ahead.
the Iranians are the adults in the Middle East.
Thank
and
you.
I personally have to say, I think John Bolton is an idiot who should be retired and never allowed to speak publicly again. This guy is trying to start a war with Russia. The Iranians, the president of Iran, reached out to Donald Trump and announced publicly that all of the Boeings and all of the Airbuses that Iran recently bought were bought for half price. He basically said, Donald, you're on the right track. We paid 50%. You should too. That's the right number. 50% of our government is waste. And we are overpaying for everything we buy from Boeing and Lockheed and Northrop Grumman, you name it. All the medical veterans care. Everything is double priced.
I
We
call the
need to.
F-35.
Well,
This is
the
the F-35
is
turkey.
that's
The $1 trillion
treason.
turkey.
It's treason. So is the USS Gerald Ford.
Yes, sir.
Now, in fairness to the contractors, that's what you get when you have an out of control Department of Defense that does not do design. It just does budget share management. The Office of the Secretary of Defense is as close as we get to a Soviet bureaucracy. These people are incompetent. They're not held accountable for failure. Bob Gates has said this on Charlie Rose. And our acquisition system is broken. I'll tell you why the president's airplane cost $4 billion. It costs $4 billion, A, because it's 50% waste, but B, because the government has specified that if the aircraft is hit, it wants it to land by parachute without spilling the president's tea. They have put in so many bells and whistles on that aircraft that it's insane.
The bid was actually for two of them, but I understand what you're saying. The parachute thing is no joke, apparently.
Look, it's not. I cannot begin to tell you. I don't have direct knowledge of the specifics, but I know government spec cost plus contracting, and it's a crime. It's legalized crime. So General Mattis has his work cut out for him. And his first challenge is going to be to have a grand strategy session and decide what he wants to do. My grand strategy recommends that we bring the Army home and that we now have a 1 million soldier Army with 3 to 6 million contractors on top of it.
Fine with me.
I would like to create a 3 million soldier Army with no contractors.
Get them out. I'd see where you're going.
Make the Army self-sufficient.
Yeah.
And make it an American Army based at home within our communities.
And we cut off, we chop off NATO, and we get the hell out of the United Nations, throw them out of New York. Let's take care of America first.
Well, I'm okay with all of that. I think there are things we could do with the United Nations, but it needs to be cut down by 2/3. Mm-hmm. But let's move on beyond the grand strategy and go to tax reform. Right now, Donald Trump is being sold a bill of goods on tax reform. The absolute highest priority of the two Goldman Sachs guys that are on his team, and they are spies for Goldman Sachs. He's under no illusion about that. He knows that.
Sure.
Okay. Their highest priority is to keep Donald Trump from finding out about the automated payment transaction tax, which would eliminate all other taxes, especially income taxes, and it would instead put a tiny fractional tax on every transaction. Now, here's the good part, including everything that's not taxed now, starting with Wall Street currency, stock, and foreign exchange transactions.
Well, that works for me.
Government revenue.
All right. How about a Tobin tax? At least.
Exactly the same thing. I mean,
but you're taking it universal. I get it.
What I can say is that Edgar Feige from the University of Wisconsin is the guy who invented this automated payment transaction tax. Uh-huh. And if your listeners look up online automated payment transaction tax, they'll get right to the page and the wonderful graphic. Now, the reason I want an automated payment transaction tax is in part because the tax reform that is being talked about for Donald Trump is not going to increase revenue, and it's not going to take away the ability of the members to blackmail industry for tax breaks. We need to just completely eliminate the IRS as well as the Fed. We need to eliminate all taxes, and this is two final benefits of the APT tax. It should be collected by the states, not the federal government. No. The federal government does not have a legal right to tax U.S. citizens. We are the United States of America. The states should collect the taxes and allocate funds to the federal government. And the tax rate should be set by national ballot so that if you want to have a war, the citizens have to vote to raise the tax to pay for the war. No more borrowing.
Yeah, I used to call this the planet usury.
Absolutely right. Now, I'll get to my point number 6, which I think you'll like a lot. Point number 6 tells Donald Trump that he is surrounded by traitors. My personal estimate is that there are 500 agents of a foreign power who are U.S. citizens, government employees with top secret clearances, some of them dual citizenship in Israel.
Right.
Others with dual citizenship in France, Germany, China, and Russia.
China, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I think you're right on to it. And I don't know. Yeah.
Here's the problem. The FBI is a toothless theatrical agency. It's not a serious counterintelligence agency. It just goes through the motions.
Agreed.
The first thing we have to do is clean out what are called the protectors in the FBI. You have pedophile protectors, you have Opus Dei protectors, you have Zionist protectors. You also have protectors for the evangelical Pentecostal crazies that want to start a war with Russia and keep trying to grow the red calf, the perfect red calf. Millions of dollars are being spent in Texas to grow the perfect red calf. Once you have cleaned out the FBI, I would triple its budget, and I would go after the 500 traitors in government and the 5,000 traitors across industry and our scientific and technical networks across the United States of America.
Robert, let me say one thing. We have no secrets here. Anyone who thinks we do is basically an idiot. There are certain exceptions, as you would know as a professional, but generally speaking, this goes back to Fort Detrick. The director of Fort Detrick, the bioweapons facility, quit. And upon quitting, said, why even go to work there anymore? When I walk into the most secure, secret areas in my laboratories, I often find more foreign nationals than I do Americans. So what the hell is going on?
That's a very good point. And what's going on is a lowering of standards. What's going on, and Marcuse has a very interesting thing on repressive tolerance. What the liberals have basically done is eliminated every standard of quality that we've ever had. Anything goes. And that's something we need to start changing. I believe that we have made some serious mistakes in immigration. I'm personally offended that taxpayers are paying to relocate refugees into the United States. This recent case in Vermont, the mayor in Vermont, who obviously has a really tiny brain, said, I'm doing it for the money. The federal government is offering me money for every refugee I take in, never mind the fact that they have no education, they have disease issues, they have criminal past. He's simply a blood-sucking merchant.
Right. Yep. He's lapping at the trough. You bet. These are not refugees, by the way, in my view, Robert. They are not refugees at all. They're invaders. They're soldiers. They're often savages. They have nothing to do with political refugees. They're being launched against us.
I'll meet you halfway there. Now, I really have to stress that we have created those refugees.
Oh,
we created
no question.
ISIS.
We're right there. You're right.
We created a swath of destruction from Afghanistan all the way down through Iraq and Syria, all the way down to Niger and Nigeria. We're planning to invade Nigeria next.
Well, don't go back. Don't stop it there. Go to Somalia, too. Listen, we need to rebuild those people's countries that we have destroyed so they will stay home, be prosperous, and leave us alone. This is not
I love that you say that, because one of the things that's in my grand strategy is the transfer of $150 billion a year from waging war to waging peace. My second book in 2002 predicted the illegal immigrant breakout into Europe. Mm-hmm. And I basically said, if you're going to bomb 99% of the people 99% of the time, they will move to your neighborhood. That's
whether they're doing it on their own or they're led and encouraged and organized to do it, it doesn't really matter. We have no business, as you know very well, over there destroying countries like Iraq. What we did to Iraq is unforgivable. What we did to Libya is unforgivable. 15 years in Afghanistan, unforgivable.
And all of that was on the basis of 935 lies led by Dick Cheney.
Yeah.
with the absolute support of liar-in-chief George Tenet, then the director of Central Intelligence.
CIA, that's the second most powerful, or maybe the most powerful man in the country, right?
CIA lies for a living, okay? And I really support Donald Trump. His instincts are correct. Whatever they present to him on Friday is almost certainly going to be fabricated. And I think he should call a spade a spade. He should tell them he does not trust them. He will not see them again. They should have their desk cleaned out on the 19th.
Absolutely. And they're listening right now. So let's, all of you Trump people in the Trump camp, get this program, get the plan. These are crucial issues. Well, the plan is at zero hedge. All right, it's at zero hedge. All right, very good. Now, let me ask you a question about Trump. Donald Trump wants to please people. It's inherent in his nature. Oh, he's a great businessman. He's a great deal maker. He likes to be liked, okay? That leaves him open to being buttered up by certain people. He has a tendency, it would seem, to go along, to get along a little too often. Now, maybe he'll learn differently. My God, on-the-job learning, on-the-job training has never been more demanding than the President of the United States. But do you agree with that or disagree? What are his weaknesses?
That's a very deep question. Let me say first off that I'm pretty sure that Trump was planning to resign and leave the office to Mike Pence when he first contemplated the daunting possibility of having to sleep in a very low-rent place compared to what he's used to, of having the Secret Service control his every move, of having to show up for work all day in an office doing things he didn't want to be doing as opposed to what he does now. And worst of all, he'd have to spend all of his time shaking hands with people he didn't know or care about. The presidency is a very, very hard job at multiple levels. Now, to his credit, and I really appreciate Donald Trump Jr. coming up and answering our concerns, because these concerns were tweeted to Trump Jr. very quickly, and he replied, Trump will not resign, and that's good. Now, I think Trump is really good at making deals, in part because he knows when to break deals. Right now, he's made a number of deals that were designed to keep him from being assassinated and to keep him from being totally undermined on his way to inauguration.
Please, people, keep that in mind, what Robert is saying. He has made deals to stay alive. That is not an exaggeration.
Exactly. And I think that now I'm huge on truth and reconciliation, and I'm absolutely convinced that Donald Trump can lead us to greatness without putting people in jail. I mean, my version of truth and reconciliation is everyone gets the truth, no one goes to jail. I have absolutely no desire to see the intelligence community leaders indicted, convicted, and jailed for telling lies to the Electoral College and to the public. I want to just move on. And I think Donald Trump feels the same way from what I've seen of his public statements. I don't think he wants to be liked as much as he wants to be respected. And it's hard to be respected when you're being attacked by everybody. I am absolutely stunned by the deep ignorance of everybody who did not vote for him. These are people who thought that it was okay to vote for a criminal who may also be a member of a pedophile network, with Podesta almost certainly being a pedophile, who has stolen billions and billions of dollars. The Clinton Foundation has donated no more than $10 million out of over $300 million that they collected. I mean, this is typical of charity fraud, but I sent a certified letter to James Comey, and if your listeners are interested, they can, at phi-beta-iota.net, they can look up certified letter, and they'll get right to the two certified letters that I sent James Comey, one after the Orlando false flag and one after the Podesta emails. My second certified letter outlined how I thought Hillary Clinton should be indicted for pedophilia, electoral fraud, treason, and charity fraud. This is as establishment evil as it gets. And yet the people who were prepared to vote for her are prepared to vilify to the point of assassination Donald Trump. There's something deeply wrong here. And that's another reason why I circle back to the need for a Trump channel and electoral reform. All of these people are good people trapped in a bad system. And over time, the schools, the media, and what they eat and drink has made them stupid as well as fat. We have got to reconstruct our nation morally and intellectually. And the only way Donald Trump can legitimize himself with the 73% that did not vote for him,
right,
is by forcing through an electoral reform act. That's his proof of legitimacy to them. And then the Trump channel brings them along.
Well, I like it. I have said for months that there should be a Trump TV or a Trump channel. You're seeing the potential of it already with his use of Twitter. It's a logical extension to have, say, Donald Jr., President, CEO of Trump Television. Fine. And I like the idea of, reality TV for the top cabinet posts. Would that be a kick? Amazing. That would be amazing.
Let me give you my final idea. And I credit Michael Hudson, one of our few honest economists. Michael Hudson has written some books and published some articles. And what he's pointed out is that the degree of debt that is burdening every individual in the United States of America has gotten to the point where we need a severe renegotiation of that debt or a debt jubilee. We're basically in gridlock.
I agree.
When you combine the student debt, the medical debt, the credit card debt, and the small business debt, you very quickly get to $2 trillion. Now, what many people are starting to realize is that banks are fully paid within the first 6 months. Everything after that is interest and interest on interest. So here's what I propose, and this is my seventh and last item in the Zero Hedge article called Spy's Xmas Message to Donald Trump, which, by the way, has 167,000 views. And I hope
That's good.
Your listeners will. Well, I have to congratulate Zero Hedge. What they have done is extraordinary. But imagine a debt renunciation pledge. This is not to say that we stop paying the money, but each of us who is in debt goes to Donald Trump's personal website. It's outside the government, which means he then has their data as part of his personal power base, not a political Republican power base. They go to his website, they register, they provide the information on how much money they owe, who they owe it to, and what the interest rate history has been. Because a lot of people get sucked into debt at 1% and all of a sudden find it turns into 29%. Now, as soon as Donald Trump hits $1 trillion in debt renunciation pledges, he can go to the banks and say, Bubbas, you got a choice. We can renegotiate all of this debt down to 25 cents on the dollar, or I can declare a debt jubilee and give everybody a presidential pardon. What'll it be?
Wow. Anything that invests in America is what we need to be talking about. If forgiving student debt is investing in America, rather than spending another $500 billion in the Middle East, killing people and funding ISIS and terrorism, let's invest in America.
Well, the other point I'd make is that a lot of this debt is fake money. I mean, this is debt that was loaned. The banks made it up. They didn't have it. They loaned it. It was used to pay universities that were gouging the students. Your average university student today knows less than a high school graduate in the 1950s.
That's right.
We have created these huge bubbles in education and health and energy and housing. So what Donald Trump has an opportunity to do here is actually be president for all Americans and put the banks back in a very small box. Completely eliminate the IRS as well as the Fed. We need to eliminate all taxes. And this is two final benefits of the APT tax. It should be collected by the states, not the federal government.
No?
The federal government does not have a legal right to tax U.S. citizens. We are the United States of America. The states should collect the taxes and allocate funds to the federal government. And the tax rate should be set by national ballot so that if you want to have a war, the citizens have to vote to raise the tax to pay for the war. No more borrowing.
Yeah, I used to call this the planet usury.
Absolutely right. Now, I'll get to my point number 6, which I think you'll like a lot. Point number 6 tells Donald Trump that he is surrounded by traitors. My personal estimate is that there are 500 agents of a foreign power who are U.S. citizens, government employees with top secret clearances, some of them dual citizenship in Israel.
Right.
Others with dual citizenship in France, Germany, China, and Russia.
China, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I think you're right on to it. I don't know. Yeah.
Here's the problem. The FBI is a toothless theatrical agency. It's not a serious counterintelligence agency. It just goes through the motions.
Agreed.
The first thing we have to do is clean out what are called the protectors in the FBI. You have pedophile protectors, you have Opus Dei protectors, you have Zionist protectors. You also have protectors for the evangelical Pentecostal crazies that want to start a war with Russia. And keep trying to grow the red calf, the perfect red calf. Millions of dollars are being spent in Texas to grow the perfect red calf. Once you have cleaned out the FBI, I would triple its budget, and I would go after the 500 traitors in government and the 5,000 traitors across. Our army is in Germany and South Korea and elsewhere. It's their army, not ours.
Thank you.
Bring it home.
Thank you. Very good.
Well, your listeners can find this grand strategy both free online and also as a Kindle short.
Okay.
And if they go to phibetaiota.net, they'll
click on Robert Steele's name and guests, and you'll go right there. phibetaiota.com.
Yes. And so I would be very glad if they went and read that grand strategy. It's only the national security side. But it stops the drone assassinations by CIA, which have a 98% miss rate.
Yep.
They kill 98 innocents for every 2 military-age males that they destroy. It basically stops a lot of evil. It also, I'm fascinated. I want to really pay Trump a compliment. I've never seen anybody in my lifetime. I'm 64 years old. I've never seen any president come in and, before even being inaugurated, beat the crap out of Boeing and Lockheed. Nothing gives me greater pleasure than to have those guys set back.
It's astonishing what we're seeing. I've covered the same thing. This is wonderful to hear someone of your stature bring these issues to the fore. It's just great.
Well, I don't know about stature because I've been marginalized, but I do have a lot of thinking that I've been doing for 25 years, and I do want to put it in Trump's service and in the service of the country. Now, I want to say something nice about Iran, which may strike some of your listeners as odd, but
no, not at all. Not at all. No, go
Listen,
ahead.
The Iranians are the adults in the Middle East.
Thank you.
I personally have to say, I think John Bolton is an idiot who should be retired and never allowed to speak publicly again. This guy is trying to start a war with Russia. The Iranians, the president of Iran, reached out to Donald Trump and announced publicly that all of the Boeings and all of the Airbuses that Iran recently bought were bought for half price. He basically said, Donald, you're on the right track. We paid 50%. You should too. That's the right number. 50% of our government is waste. And we are overpaying for everything we buy from Boeing and Lockheed and Northrop Grumman, you name it. All the medical veterans care. Everything is double priced.
We need the F-35.
The
F-35 is Turkey.
That's
$1 trillion Turkey.
It's treason. So is the USS Gerald Ford.
Yes, sir.
Now, in fairness to the contractors, that's what you get when you have an out of control Department of Defense that does not do design. It just does budget share management. The Office of the Secretary of Defense is as close as we get to a Soviet bureaucracy. These people are incompetent. They're not held accountable for failure. Bob Gates has said this on Charlie Rose. And our acquisition system is broken. I'll tell you why the president's airplane cost $4 billion. It costs $4 billion, A, because it's 50% waste, but B, because the government has specified that if the aircraft is hit, it wants it to land by parachute without spilling the president's tea. They have put in so many bells and whistles on that aircraft that it's insane.
The bid was actually for two of them, but I understand what you're saying. The parachute thing is no joke, apparently.
Look, it's not. I cannot begin to tell you. I don't have direct knowledge of the specifics, but I know government spec cost plus contracting, and it's a crime. It's legalized crime. So General Mattis has his work cut out for him. And his first challenge is going to be to have a grand strategy session and decide what he wants to do. My grand strategy recommends that we bring the Army home and that we now have a 1 million soldier Army with 3 to 6 million contractors on top of it.
Fine with me.
I would like to create a 3 million soldier Army with no contractors.
Get them out. I see where you're going.
Make the Army self-sufficient.
Yeah.
And make it an American Army based at home within our communities.
And we cut off, we chop off NATO, and we get the hell out of the United Nations, throw them out of New York. Let's take care of America first.
Well, I'm okay with all of that. I think there are things we could do with the United Nations, but it needs to be cut down by 2/3. Mm-hmm. But let's move on beyond the grand strategy and go to tax reform. Right now, Donald Trump is being sold a bill of goods on tax reform. The absolute highest priority of the two Goldman Sachs guys that are on his team, and they are spies for Goldman Sachs. He's under no illusion about that. He knows that.
Sure.
Okay. Their highest priority is to keep Donald Trump from finding out about the automated payment transaction tax, which would eliminate all other taxes, especially income taxes, and it would instead put a tiny fractional tax on every transaction. Now, here's the good part, including everything that's not taxed now, starting with Wall Street currency, stock, and foreign exchange transactions.
Well, that works for me.
Government revenue.
All right. How about a Tobin tax? At least.
Exactly the same thing. I mean,
but you're taking it universal. I get it.
What I can say is that Edgar Feige from the University of Wisconsin is the guy who invented this automated payment transaction tax. Uh-huh. And if your listeners look up online automated payment transaction tax, they'll get right to the page and the wonderful graphic. Now, the reason I want an automated payment transaction tax is in part because the tax reform that is being talked about for Donald Trump is not going to increase revenue, and it's not going to take away the ability of the members to blackmail industry for tax breaks. We need to just complete. Well, that would be good. Now, then the fourth point is a grand strategy. I personally think that Trump, who was probably busy avoiding being assassinated, Trump picked his people, many of them brilliant choices, some of them not so brilliant choices. Right. I have a real hard time understanding the worldwide wrestling lady being in charge of small business.
That wouldn't caught me cold. Yeah, I agree.
But I do favor Rex Tillerson very, very much.
He supposedly cut off his relations with big oil to do a better job in the position he's been appointed.
Who better to have as Secretary of State than someone who intimidates presidents already?
I agree.
The guy is a giant, and General Mattis is a giant. And General Kelly knows how to build a wall. So I'm smiling now because I'm thinking that the mix of business and military people that Trump has picked is quite promising.
Well, you've waited 25 years, so go ahead and smile, Robert. Enjoy. I agree.
I've been waiting 25 years for this moment. You're absolutely right. And I do feel like there's a convergence. So the fourth point is a grand strategy. Trump needs to have a grand strategy summit. There hasn't been a grand strategy since Ike Eisenhower ran Project Solarium in 1953. Now, I've been blessed. I just finished up a 3-monograph strategy series for the U.S. Army Strategic Study Institute. And the first volume, the first monograph, I don't want to oversell it, is an American grand strategy that starts with bringing the Army home, closing all of our overseas bases, closing down the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, ending all of our military subsidies to the Saudi dictators.
Absolutely, 100% concur and agree with you, and I've been saying the same thing. What the hell do we have people in South Korea for? Who's paying the bill? What are they doing in Germany, etc.?
One of the points that I make is as long as